Ah, no. Ah, don't cut the wrong places. In case you've missed the last couple of videos, the outside of the pool house is almost finished. I've only got a couple of things left to do, one of which is gutters. Now, I've never done gutters and downspouts before, but it's been raining the last several days, so I've had plenty of time to do some research. And by research, I mean I've looked at my house. Basically, I just looked at the pieces and the parts that are there for the gutters and the downspouts, and I went and bought essentially the same stuff. Let's go inside, because it's cold and wet. Let me show you what I got. It's all stuff that seems pretty straightforward. Basically, I got some really long gutter, some downspouts, some caps to put on the end of them, some pieces to make them strong and sturdy so they don't fall off, some clips to hold them to the building, and then some curves to be able to route them where I want them to go. Now, all the pieces I got are aluminum, so I think it'll be pretty easy to handle and cut and all that. But I also got some pop rivets, some self-tapping screws, and some sealant. Now, I assume this is all the stuff I need to get these up, but we'll find out. But I do think I want to wait till the rain stops to actually get started on this stuff. So let me tell you about the other thing that I want to do to the outside. Now, there were many reasons that I wanted to build this pool house, but one of the practical reasons is to cover and protect all the pool equipment. And it's now covered, but it's still ugly. Now, the rest of the building looks super nice, in my opinion, so it's a shame that you still have this kind of ugly utility stuff right here in the front of it. So we're gonna cover it up with a screen, and that screen is gonna be some sort of a wooden slat, something that I haven't quite figured out yet. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be a cedar slat wall, something that will look really nice, contrasted against the dark siding. It's gonna attach to this post and then come over this way and attach to something that I haven't figured out yet. But it's still cold and raining, so I'm gonna go inside and figure it out. So the first thing we gotta do is cut this down to length. I guess with an angle grinder? Huh, well. So I just discovered a little issue, and guess what? It has to do with my earlier design decisions. I don't think it's gonna be a big deal, but it is something I'm gonna have to work around. Let me show you the deal. Let's look at my house as a reference point. The bottom of this gutter is parallel to the ground because it's attached to something that is perpendicular to the ground, the outside of this fascia board. That's not what I did on the pool house. And on the pool house, I made these perpendicular to the rafters because I didn't think it mattered. But given that this is the case, if I put this here, that means the water's gonna come off and just go over it. It needs to be like this to catch the water. So I took a minute and looked online to see how people combat this, because I'm not the only person that's ever dealt with this. And it turns out there's actually a thing called gutter wedges. It's a little wedge that goes on the back side to force this into 90 degrees from the ground or whatever. I don't have any of those gutter wedges, but I do have a 3D printer. All right, while those are printing, we can go ahead and move on to doing some of the other stuff, like putting in that outlet, but we can also have a little boom break.
Boom break. It's time to take a boom break.
All right, next up, we got to put this inside this. This is called an outlet, and basically it's just a hole to go into the downspout. So we got to cut a hole in the bottom of the gutter in the right place, and then this thing drops in place and sticks out the bottom. Okay, from what I read, take some seam sealer, you put it around this edge, plop it in, and use some pop rivets to lock this to the gutter, and then you can move on. That wasn't so bad. So next up, these ends go on the end of the gutter. You just put some seam sealer in here and then just push them on the profile. And then you can crimp them to actually make them stay in place. There is a special crimping tool for that I don't have, so I'm just gonna use some pliers. Some pop rivets there wouldn't hurt too, or just a better crimper. Yeah, that's the ticket. If you don't have the right crimper, just use pop rivets on a couple of sides. That thing's not gonna come off. Still waiting on the 3D printer to finish those wedges, so we can talk about these. These are called gutter screws. Basically, it's a really long screw that goes in from the front top edge of the gutter and then travels through this and then goes into the surface that you're attaching them to. It's really easy, I think. We just need to drill some holes on that front edge to start these. So now, each one of these little ferrules go in here and just span the distance so it doesn't get crushed when you put the screw in through that hole. You go all the way in, and then it goes through the back into the wood. And I'm assuming that those wedges should be in line with where these screws are, so I've printed one wedge for each one of the screws. Now, unfortunately, that's as far as the gutters can go until my wedges are finished printing, but I can pivot to something else. We decided on a light, and this is gonna go over top of the door. But as you can see, there's no electrical box because there's no electrical. So we gotta fix that. Now, unfortunately, there's a batten almost centered in the door. So to put in a box here, I'm gonna have to cut into that batten. I thought that would be a big deal. I looked it up, turns out it's not. You kinda have to deal with it the same whether it's here or here. Either way, it's gonna have to have some sort of a metal box so that the wire connection is actually housed inside of metal. And that's when I found out about these. This is something new to me. It's called a pancake box, and it's a really thin metal box. The cool thing about this is you don't have to build it into the framing all the way inside. You can actually just put it on top of the sheathing because it's about as deep as the siding. Normally, you would have to mount a box on the frame, cut a hole in the sheathing, and then extend that box through the sheathing so that it lines up with where your fixture is gonna go. We don't have to do that with this. I've never actually put one of these in before, and it is a little bit different than mounting a box in framing, so I'm trying to figure it out. Here's my plan. I'm gonna find exactly the center of where the light needs to go, this point right here, and then I'm gonna cut exactly this size opening in the siding. That way this can sit directly in on top of the sheathing, and there's not really any gap around this in the siding. Now the light fixture is a little bit bigger than this, so I'll have to open up that batten where the light fixture interacts with that, and then when the light fixture goes over top of this box, I can caulk around that outside to keep water from going in and around and all the places I don't want it to be. Theoretically, like I said, I've never done this before. This video is sponsored by PCBWay, and you can tell from the name that they make PCBs, printed circuit boards, but maybe that's not something that you need. They also can CNC things, or laser cut things, or do injection molding, or vacuum casting, or 3D printing, and so much more. Like, it's kind of crazy how many different things they can do under one roof. And I wanted to show you an example of something that I had them 3D print. That's 3D printed, and I can see through it, which is wild. This is just one of the materials that they can 3D print with, but they've got tons of materials, and they can manufacture just about anything, any way that you need it done. And on top of that, they've also got tons of finishing methods. Imagine that you had them CNC something for you out of aluminum, but then you also had to have it powder coated in any color that you want. They can do that. And they can do it whether you need one of them or like 100,000 of them. It's actually really easy to get started too. First, you design your part, then you go to PCBWay.com. Pick the manufacturing method that you want, and then you upload your files. Somebody at PCBWay is gonna look at your file and make sure that they understand exactly what you're going for and the best way to do it, and they're gonna get in touch with you to make sure that the quality is as good as possible. And after that's all good and you're ready to check out, you need to use the code PCBWay-ILTMS10. That's gonna give you $10 off any order over $30. That's only for the first 100 people, so go do it now. A lot of us can make a lot of things on our own, but there's some stuff that is just too hard to do in a home shop. PCBWay is a fantastic way to get it made. Be sure to go check them out, and huge thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring the video. Now, I just have to figure out how to cut exactly along the outside of this fixture. I'm gonna score it with a blade to try to get exactly what I need and then figure out how to cut it to that. Huh. Okay. Not easy to get to. Ah, no! Ah! Don't cut the wrong places. Ah, oh man. Dropped the little tiny little washer that I need. Ah, stay. That looks really good. Unfortunately, I can't test it because the other end of the wire's not attached to anything. There's no electrical in this building yet. I also still have to seal around the fixture where I cut into the siding. I need to use some liquid flashing and some caulk, stuff like that, to get around there and make sure that that is sealed so no water gets in the light or behind the siding. But for now, the prints are done. So I'm gonna try these self-tapping screws from the back just to make a pilot hole. Then I have a place to put them in from the front and just drive them straight through this plastic. We'll line up that bottom edge like that. Okay, not elegant, but that totally worked. So now, gotta figure out how to get this to stay. Well, I have to trim my roofing. Dang it. There's a little detail that I put in right here when I was putting on the roof that has to be cut out so that the gutter can go there. Give me a second. Okay, try that again. Up to the thing. Trying to get it to tuck behind the little overlap piece that I can't remember what it's called right now. I guess it doesn't have to go all the way up and be held in place, but hoping I could step back and look at it. Another thing about putting this up is that you need about a 1/2 inch drop over 10 feet. This thing's about 12.5 feet long, so I'm gonna have to have a little bit more than a 1/2 inch drop from that end to that end, but I can get one screw in and then kind of pivot from there. It worked. So now I'm gonna go do one on the other end so it's actually at the right angle, held in place, and then I'll come back and be able to like actually puncture each one of these. All right, gotta make sure that this is draining as it's supposed to.
Hi there.
Now we just need some downspouts. So for the downspouts, I think it's pretty simple. You have these different pieces that you can connect together to get it from the gutter over to the side of the building and then down. Got some simple straps that you can use to hook to the building, and then once you get to the bottom, you just have to route it out into the grass wherever you want. So I think it's pretty easy. Well, that's perfect. Okay. Actually, do you want it to go that way? Does that matter? Now I need a downspout. All right, I gotta figure out how long downspout is. So I'm gonna mark like 1 inch up into this. And then the bottom of the downspout is gonna go into this so that it's facing away from the building going downhill. So I'm gonna lay this against the building and then mark about 1 inch down. The distance in between those two marks is what I need for downspout. Okay. And then just kind of plop it on. Push it up in there, put it into the clip, hold it in place with a couple of screws. I'm gonna connect all these pieces with a screw. That way I can get them apart if I need to, but they're not gonna fall apart on their own. Now, based on my very limited experience, gutters and downspouts are easy. Like, that's something I'm never gonna pay anybody else to do, and you can totally handle that in an afternoon. It's pretty great. Now that this is finished, it's time to move on to the next thing. Now, the plan all along has been to make some sort of a screen that covers up all the pool equipment, probably out of vertical slats of a nice looking wood that would contrast the dark siding. But that's the plan. I have not really figured anything out past that. But regardless of what it looks like, it's got to connect to something. So we've got a post here and we need to add another post right here next to the building. Now we're going to add this one just like we added that one. Drill a hole, add a plate, put in the post, good to go. Now there's a little problem, of course, putting this bracket this close to the building. It's got two uprights with holes in it to attach the post, and the holes closest to the building are not really usable. So I'm only gonna be able to put in screws from the outside to hold it, but the top of the post is gonna be held to the building with one of these L brackets. And honestly, this post is only gonna be holding this screen. It's not structural in any way whatsoever. Okay, so I just got back from the store. I bought 3 1x4s made out of cedar and a whole bunch of 1x2s made out of cedar. Up here, cedar is the kind of best outdoor wood you can get that's not pressure treated. Now, my idea here is to take these wider boards and run across the top, middle, and bottom of these 2 posts, and then those will be the places that I screw in the vertical pieces to. Basically, it's like making a fence, which made me realize that I've never actually made a fence, so I'm not sure how helpful that is. Let's do it. Now the placement of this middle one doesn't really matter, I don't think, except that I'm gonna use it to disguise a piece of this channel to run here and then to the building, so eventually I can run some electrical inside. So I made a little bit of a mistake. When I went to order these boards, I just paid for them online. And usually that means that you can go in and show them your receipt and pick out the ones that you want. But for some reason, these got picked by the people in the store. And they're not great. Let me show you this one. This one in particular is really interesting because it has multiple curves this direction and then one this way. It would make a really good Hot Wheels track, but terrible for this particular job. So anyway, I'm gonna pick through these and see which ones are usable, and the rest of them I'll just return and then pick replacements myself. But just a word of warning, make sure you get to pick them yourself.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So I returned all that wood because honestly it was pretty terrible, and instead I got 1x4s, the same as I used up here, but I picked them out by hand by myself and made sure that they all looked good and they were relatively straight. After that, I ripped them all at the table saw right down the middle. Now it turns out that it's actually a little bit cheaper to get a 1x4 than to get 2 1x2s, which I guess makes sense, but they look a lot better. I mean, obviously, if you start with a better looking, bigger board and you cut it down, you're gonna have better results. But they honestly do look a lot better. Now, of course, when you rip a board down its length, a lot of time there's tension in the grain that gets released, and some of those boards, as you're cutting, you can see them just like bend out to the side. So, I got a few extras, so I can throw a few away if I need to. So my plan is to put this right here, get it plumb, and then drive in screws from the back side so you don't have any exposed fasteners on the front. But to do that, that means that this post is a little bit of an issue. Now I could just take the whole thing down and build it on the ground, then lift it up and screw it into the post, but I think it'll be easier to keep it square if it's built up here where I can use the level and these pieces are already level. So I'm gonna do that except for the ends. Then once I've got a big panel, I'm gonna take it down, add the ends, and then screw it back up. Maybe that's not a great way to do it, but that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna pretend that one goes right here on the end, flush with that. Then I'm gonna put in a 1/2 inch spacer right there. Then I'll put on the second one, which would line up right at that mark. Then a 1/2 inch spacer. So now I just have to start with this one. Because it's cedar and it's long and skinny, it can bend quite a bit, which is good for getting it level top to bottom, but it's also kind of a pain because then you have to level the top and the bottom. So this might take a little bit, and it's raining, so that's cool. Now, the rain is a little bit annoying to work in just because it makes everything wet, you know, but it's not a big deal. The cool thing about rain is that it actually makes the color of the cedar pop a lot. and it looks a lot closer what it will look like once it has varnish on it, which I will have to do. Otherwise, it'll eventually turn gray, and that's no good. Where I live, we don't have a whole lot of options for rot-resistant wood. A lot of people will have redwoods or hardwoods like teak that do great outside. We don't really have much here other than cedar. It's either that or pressure-treated pine, which kind of has a particular look, which is not what we wanted for this. Like I said before, if you leave it outside and don't put anything on it, it's gonna turn kind of a gray, ugly color, even though it won't necessarily rot. But we're gonna put spar varnish on it, just like I did on the tongue and groove ceiling outside, and that should help it last and look a lot nicer for a lot longer. But I can't do that until after it's dry.
Moon break!
That's where you're gonna sit, right there? Thanks, dogs. All right, now I'm gonna sink a screw in here. And I'm gonna pre-drill it because I don't want it to split. Now, of course, I can't put any finish on this until it dries, so I'm kind of stuck there. One of these days, we may end up doing a very similar thing on this side, maybe with some sliding doors, swinging doors, I don't know. But for now, I'm gonna call this done. With the exterior light on and the gutters working and the screen covering the ugly stuff, I guess I kind of have to admit that the outside of the pool house is done, which is kind of sad because I've loved this process. The last 7 months of building this thing has been super gratifying, and I've learned a ridiculous amount of stuff. I've been really happy with it. Thank you for hanging out with me through this process. Now, I guess we get to move to the inside. It's gonna be awesome. Catch you later. The whole thing. Okay. So if you've been following, wow, thank you, birds. Thank you. Cow, cow, cow. Pool house is almost finished. We've only got a nice, in my opinion. So it's a bunch of 1x2s made out of cedar because they should last outside.